Scarlet and Violet introduced a new feature called Raids. Up to 4 players can challenge a range of difficult Pokémon, from 1 star to 5 star, though through some events, 6 or even 7 star Pokémon can spawn. Many of these Pokémon are exclusive to raids, and even gives players an alternative way to collect trade evolution Pokémon and starter Pokémon. These raids allow players to acquire bottle caps, an item used to hyper train a Pokémon's IV stat, something we'll cover more in depth later on in this video. It is also a way to obtain Herba Mystica, a rare sandwich filler that can be used to help shiny hunt, as well as other things. In this video we're going to go over my favourite raid Pokémon, and the build that I use on them, Azumarill. Let's start with how to obtain Azumarill. While they do spawn naturally in the wild at Castle Royal Lake, the more common spawn is Marill, who evolves into Azumarill at level 18. Marill can actually be found all over the south of the map, and to the far east in these locations. So why Azumarill? For starters, they are a water fairy type, and fairy is one of the best types in the game, being immune to dragon and resistant to fighting, bug and dark, while only being weak to poison and steel. Water is resistant to water, ice, fire and steel. The combination of water fairy turns steel into neutral damage, so now our only weaknesses are lightning, grass and poison. We're going to be building a physical Azumarill, which at first look might seem odd because their special attack is their higher damaging stat. However, we'll be using the ability Huge Power. Levels matter in this raid, so we'll be looking at level 100 Azumarill for this video. By default their stats would look like this, but with Huge Power the stat would be doubled, leaving us with 436 attack, with the adamant nature increasing attack further but lowering our special attack. To achieve this we'll need max IVs and at least attack, though I would highly recommend maxing your HP and both defense stats as well. In previous games this wasn't an easy feat, requiring a lot of patience and breeding. However, in Scarlet and Violet we can use bottle caps to hyper train our stats, maxing out the IVs in that particular stat. So what are IVs? IVs stand for individual value, and they range from 1 to 31, with 31 being the best. These numbers represent how good that particular stat is, and ultimately affects how powerful your Pokemon will end up. Unlike EVs, IVs can have all 6 stats maxed. EVs however are a different story. EV stands for effort value, and is earned every time your Pokemon defeats another Pokemon in battle. Depending on what Pokemon was defeated, will affect which stat earns an EV point. For example, defeating a Rattata will yield 1 speed EV. Each stat can max at 252, but your Pokemon can only earn 510 of these, meaning you can only max out 2 stats as well as having 6 EVs spare. In our case we want to max attack and HP. You can put the last 6 wherever you want. Grinding these stats up can take a while, which is why I suggest using items instead. These items can be purchased from Chansey supply stores, or these feathers can be found on the ground all over the map. Let's move on to what moves you should use. One of the other benefits of using Azumarill is they gain access to the move Belly Drum. Belly Drum cuts the user's HP in half, but it maxes out your attack. In battle each stat can be raised or lowered to +6 or -6. This heavily impacts the amount of damage that you'll do. But in raids, using moves like Dragon's Dance, that only increases your attack by 1 stage, can take too many turns, since you'll unnecessarily take damage, potentially run out of time since raids are limited, or never build up enough Terror Charge to actually terrestrialize, which is quite often essential to beating raids. The other moves that we use are Liquidation, or Aqua Tail if you value the extra damage at a loss of accuracy, Play Rough, and either Brick Break or Superpower. Superpower does do more damage, but it has less PP. Brick Break on the other hand can break through things like Reflect and Light Screen. Though it might be quite niche, it has actually come in handy for me more times than you'd think. Liquidation and Play Rough are the more important moves to focus on, since they are the same type as Azumarill, giving us a damage boost through the Stab feature. Stab stands for same type attack bonus and as the name suggests, rewards you for using a damaging move that matches your Pokemon's type. Normally this is a 1.5 times damage bonus, but when we terrestrialize into a fairy type, Play Rough's damage gets a greater stab boost, to a whopping 2 times damage. When looking at raids, you need to pay attention to 2 things. 1. What is the typing on the raid? Things like Fighting, Dragon and Dark are excellent for us, since Terra Play Rough can easily one-shot 5-star or less raids, but we shouldn't ignore our water type that allows us to perform well in fire, rock and ground raids. However, the other thing to look out for is what is the underlying Pokemon, since they still use their regular moves regardless of Terra type. Poison is the only really scary type for our Azumarill, until we terrestrialize where Steel also becomes a slight threat. Thankfully there are only a handful of scary Steel moves, so Poison really is the one to keep an eye out for. Galarian Slowbros are a great example, as they can be an extremely scary raid for us. Before terrestrializing though, we are still at risk to lightning and grass damage, so bear that in mind. The great news is failing a raid does not matter, since it doesn't despawn. You can just try it again. This Azumarill build can easily solo any 5-star or less raid, and almost all 6-star raids. This is in part thanks to the item Shell Bell that restores a chunk of the damage that we deal as health back for our Azumarill. So long as you survive the first hit after using Belly Drum, you'll likely be set for the rest of the raid, which if you're going online will make your raid squad very happy. Occasionally you will notice that the raid Pokemon does reset your stats, but with any luck you'll be back to full health and can pop off another Belly Drum. So that's everything that you need to know about Azumarill, and with any luck you're now set up and ready to go raid. So good luck out there. If this video has helped, please consider liking, commenting and subscribing for the algorithm, and to help me reach my goal of 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye.